Sir, now Congress says that Ms. Madhabi Buch was a whole-time director with SEBI between April 5th to October 4th, 2021. Congress says she became the chairman. My apologies. She became the chairperson of SEBI March 2022. Now, Congress claims that she had all this while she was getting a salary and she was paid up to 16.8 crores of rupees during this time while she was the member of SEBI, and she also received 22,41,000 as ESOPs from ICICI Bank, ICICI Prudential. So tell me, how is this possible, and how such blatant violation of law? If this is true, that is.
Yeah, that's right. So I think, that's where Hindenburg has also said these things should be investigated. The charges that they have leveled, about the various investments, etc., etc. So here also, the charges that are being leveled by Congress, hopefully they've got all the documentation right? Yes. And if that is the case, then this is to be investigated, because earlier the Hindenburg second report, Madhabi Buch and her husband denied all the charges. SEBI also issued statements saying there's nothing wrong that was done, right? So the question is that there are some people who are making certain charges, there are some people who are denying that. So an investigation is required, right? And Hindenburg also said investigation is required. So in this case also, let there be an investigation. But this investigation cannot be by a technical committee. Again, I come back to the point that because a lot of political, pressures are there on various investigative agencies, and to the extent that the CBI has been called the cage parrot by the Supreme Court itself, and at various points of time, Supreme Court and the various courts have said that the official agencies spoil the cases. The way the cases are recorded, the way the cases play out, you can spoil the case, right? So, given all that, it's a political question. It's not just a narrowly technical question. This is where the JPC is important. Now, we have had a history of 3 other JPCs prior to this, right? Those 3 JPCs also did not succeed in really correcting the financial problems, whether it be the time of Harshad Mehta or the Ketan Parekh or the 2G scam, at that time also they could not correct. But a lot of things came out. The public got aware of what's going on, how the manipulations go on, and so on. So in this case also, maybe because the ruling party is always going to dominate in the JPC, therefore they may not allow various things to come out, right? But when the questions are done by the opposition party and the answers come to that, then the public gets to know. So I think it's fair that for transparency's sake, all these things get revealed. So including the current charges, maybe the Congress party has been given some information and some data, and they'll put it out in detail in the public. Mrs. Buch will also have her side of the view, which she'll also put out, and let that be investigated completely, okay, but not by a technical committee. So Hindenburg's charges and the charges on ICICI, which have come out now, and earlier, as you know, some SEBI former directors and members of the SEBI board, they also said that she should have recused herself. She should have recused herself from the Supreme Court committee that was there, SEBI's committee to help the Supreme Court committee. So in other words, even some former SEBI board members have said that a recusal would have been good. And this Pinochet judgment in London clearly makes out, that she should have recused herself, and she didn't recuse herself. That's a problem.
Sir, if you look at it plainly, there was this person who invested in some international bonds, and she invested. This particular bond was investing in Adani. And this was between 2015, and she says by 2017 she had withdrawn from that. She had withdrawn her investments, and in 2022, March 2nd, very ironically, March 2nd, 2022, she was appointed as member of SEBI. And March 2nd, 2023, Supreme Court asks for the investigation. Now, sir, doesn't all of this look very strange? You have a person in the member, as member of SEBI, who is in some way, directly, indirectly, invested in at least had investment in Adani, and possibly has profited from that investment too, which is what I want to believe, that profited from that investment too. Isn't that reason enough for her to recuse herself and to, or possibly to, to be then appointed the chairperson of the body? Isn't that strange?
So, there are 2-3 things that we need to be clear. When she was investing in a company, okay, that company was run by somebody who had earlier been working for Adani.
Yes.
Okay? And
Yes.
that company was going to invest in various ways, right? But in that company also, Mr. Vinod Adani was also putting his money in, right? And in these small companies, what happens is, unlike in the big companies, these big players, they can actually tell where you should invest the money. So that's where the suspicion arises, that if Mr. Vinod Adani was the big investor there, then he could have directed. So that's why these are called nested companies, these small companies. These are used to funnel money in and out. So they were investing in that small company also. Now, we can't prove that actually that money was, going into Adani companies, because that needs to be investigated, right? But the very fact that Mr. Vinod Adani was investing, these people who are running, the friend of the husband, he had earlier worked for Adani company, all that raises suspicion. And in financial markets, it's usually the case that you never get to know the truth completely, because the way the nesting is done, the way the linkages are built up, etc. So suspicion is there. And that's why Hindenburg is saying this needs to be investigated fully, right? So that's a fair point. So, but the point is, in the financial market, even if you have linkages, those linkages mean that you probably have some kind of a deeper understanding or deeper relationship. So when you get appointed into SEBI, you get appointed to the board of a bank, you get appointed as managing director, a chairperson, there's a lot of cronyism that comes in. These financial sector appointments are not based entirely on that you are very capable or that you're very good at your job, etc., etc. It requires some connectivity also. So that's why you see the chairpersons and managing directors of the banks, they have been manipulated by the political masters, because they are appointed by the banking division of the Ministry of Finance, right? And there the political masters have a say. So who gets appointed as chairperson and managing director, or the SEBI board of directors, etc., etc., there'll be a political say. Now, if you have been linked to somebody powerful like Adani, that obviously becomes a source of your getting to the political masters who would appoint you, right? So all these are suspicions, because this is how the finance world works. You can't prove that Mr. A was connected with B and B was connected with C, and therefore C appointed D, right? Because D was very close to A, right? These things, but in the finance world, we know that these things happen. And therefore, recusal is the basic thing. And that's what Pinochet's judgment is. That, if there's a suspicion that you were connected, and maybe, you had earned that money abroad, you'd earned that money, but where were you investing? And why were you investing in that? Was it to build a linkage with the Adani group so that you could benefit out of it later on? And then you got appointed to the SEBI board, and then from SEBI board you become the SEBI chairperson. First time somebody who was not in the public sector, who was a private sector member, got appointed. And a private sector member would invariably have had links in the financial world with various companies, etc. So there could be, the conflict of interest. So therefore, these are the kind of issues that will come up, and only a JPC can sort it out. Technical committee will not sort it out, because they cannot work out the link between A and B, B and C, C and D, etc. These are political questions that will crop up, which will have to be investigated in detail. A SEBI appointed committee would only look at very minor little connections, and then say there's nothing in it, because that 2018 law is there, which prevents you from going further behind who's the real owner of those funds, etc. So therefore, it's a political question that has come up.
Stay ahead with our cutting-edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.